Welcome to Author Update, your weekly dose of publishing news that actually matters to your career. And this week, Nigerian scammers are using bot armies to target authors, and they're not just flooding your inbox anymore. We'll talk about their new strategy in just a moment, but it's not all doom and gloom. Spotify just announced that they're paying authors advances to produce short-term audiobooks. Could this be the Audible competitor we've been waiting for?
Short form.
Maybe not. And speaking of tools, we got two brand new Patron Toolbox tools that'll save you hours on blog SEO and audiobook production. Oh, and new data just dropped about how Americans are reading less overall, but they're reading more mystery, thriller, and suspense. All of that, plus AI browsers and a lot more in this episode of Author Update. I'm Thomas Umstattd Jr.
And I'm Jonathan Sugar, and let's jump right into the bots. That's right, the Terminators have arrived. Nigerian bot armies have invaded author inboxes and Discord servers. So Victoria Strauss on Writer Beware did a deep dive on the latest twists in Nigerian marketing scams. And these things are evolving faster than authors are even aware that they're AI scams. All right, they're just getting better. So it started out with the email going out, and all of you have gotten it, I'm sure. If you have a book on Amazon, you've gotten this email to where, hey, the Boozy Book Reader Club loves your book, and man, it was glory. I got some incredible emails that if these were real people, I'd have been like, man, you really liked my book. But because they liked it so much, and because I'm former Intel, nope, I don't trust you. Yep, I got an in-depth look at Einherjar, and they were like, "What we want to introduce you to our book community and get you involved in our book community. And in that book community, there's a Discord community. Join our Discord." And we're used to Nigerian bot scammers not having websites, much less Discords.
And that's been the way to check, right? You look to see if they have a professional website. If they don't have a website, they're obviously not a real bot, but that isn't working like it used to.
Because you can now go into a Discord community, and it's a community because now there are bots in there having conversations about your book. Because all they had to do, as soon as you go into the Discord, as soon as your handle arrives in the Discord, it's going to trigger a code string, which is going to initiate a bunch of bots talking to each other about your book. Oh, I loved this book. I thought it was great. I hope it gets into that 50 reviewer challenge that we've been doing. Get 50 reviews on it in 2 days. Yeah, that would be great. Oh, I'm so totally on board with that. And it generates all this chatter about your book, and you arrive in the middle of that, and you're like, I'm amazing. And you're so excited because this is everything you always wanted, right? And that's when they're like, okay, hey, we like to tip our reviewers because it does take up a good deal of their time to read your book. Something easy, 20, 25 bucks, which is really, that's not so bad, right? The Kirkus charges like 300. I mean, you'll totally be fine, okay? And that's where they're going to get you, is on that, because as soon as you Zelle the money or PayPal the money or whatever it is you do with the money, everything shuts down.
Yeah, what's innovative here is how they're using AI to mimic a lot of activity. And the big red flag is that authors shouldn't be paying for reviews. They shouldn't be tipping reviews. So Correct. You're already kind of breaking Amazon's terms of service. This is already a very sketchy activity. But that was the last week, right? This Writer Beware article came out on Monday, and they're already using an even newer tactic.
Captain,
they're using it.
They've adapted.
they're evolving. And they're using it on the audience of this very podcast. So Author Update viewers have started getting emails from me that are not from me. So the Nigerian scammers are now impersonating Thomas Umstattd. In fact, they sent one to my brother. And here's what's crazy. The email was a response to his comment on the Author Update video. So they found his comment. They were able to deduce his email address from his username and then send him an email responding to his comment, claiming to be from me, but it was novel marketing with 2 I's at gmail.com. So novel marketing, which you'd never notice, right? Because the from name just said novel marketing. It had Thomas Umstattd spelled correctly. It did say warm regards, which I would never say. Anybody who's ever gotten an email from me knows how I end my emails, which I'm not going to say for the bots, but you might be able to figure it out.
It's so I can't figure it out, man. What is it?
It's a mystery wrapped in an enigma. So fortunately I have a little bit of branding, so you can, but like they may get even more sophisticated to figure that out. So you have to be very, very careful, because now they're impersonating actual like known people in the industry, and they might start offering things that I don't offer, right? A lot of people want to get one-on-one coaching with me. It's not a service that I offer, but one of these Nigerians might offer it. They'll be like, yeah, you're totally getting one-on-one coaching from Thomas Umstattd, even though that's not a thing he does, but I'll give it to you cheap. Anyway, so you have to be very, very careful. And one of the best ways to keep yourself safe from these kinds of scams is that if you're ever suspicious, share it on authormedia.social. This is becoming one of the most common kinds of posts on authormedia.social, are authors sharing emails that they got with each other and just asking the question, is this legit? Because I was talking with one author on Monday, and her inbox was full of these scam emails, but in the midst of all of them was a legit invite to be a speaker at a legit event where they were going to pay her money. And so she was like, just spam, 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 spam. And if she went too quick, she would have missed this like really good opportunity that was exactly what she wanted for her business. So not everybody reaching out to you is a scammer, although in general, if they're trying to get money out of you, they're more likely to be a scammer. And if they're trying to give you money, they're more likely to be real. But that is not a universal
it's not
technique, because some of the scammers will give you a little bit of money to try to get more money.
Correct.
Later.
Yeah. You really got a way to just know the branding of the person that you're talking to. Thomas has a lot of tells, I guess you would call them, that you can tell it's him, right?
Try to resist my NPC programming.
I was talking about this with Thomas a little bit beforehand. This is very much like Terminator. All right. In Terminator 2 specifically, the Terminator calls John's adopted parents, or the ones who are taking care of him. And this is a meme template at this point, okay? And it's just, he's just like, how's Wolfie? What's the name of your dog? Spot. Okay. Where's Wolfie? Wolfie's fine, dear. Your foster parents are dead. So know who the person is that it would be sending you emails and stuff. If I'm being nice to you, like really nice to you, and I'm complimenting you a lot in an email, it's not.
So here's the question I want everyone to answer in the chat. Who do you think would be easier to impersonate as a scammer? Is Thomas Umstattd easier to impersonate, or is Jonathan Sugar easier to impersonate? We'll get a vote in the chat. Who do you think? Who do you think the scammer should be impersonating, or who would be easier to impersonate? I know who I think would be easier to impersonate. You just need to mention being a Marine in every sentence, and people will totally believe that it's Jonathan.
I'm sorry. I've heard like even other veterans try to pretend to be Marines. It just doesn't work. It just doesn't work. The bots.
Yeah, if they say I'm a former Marine, that's a big red flag.
Here's the thing: ChatGPT won't say most of the things that I say. Okay, there are guardrails.
Speaking of ChatGPT, we're going to get to a story later. Maybe we can jump straight to that now. ChatGPT has launched a browser, and it is kind of an indication of the rise of the AI browsers. Yeah. So this is a browser that's an AI browser. It's a competitor to Chrome. It's running the Chromium engine, and it's one of just several new AI browsers. And one of the things that I very much do not like about the browser is that it has all of the stupid censorship that's built into ChatGPT built into the browser. And so if you're trying to do a search, researching, I don't know, World War II, factions in World War II, we'll say to be nice and keyword friendly, it'll just say, I'm sorry, I can't research that. It's politically incorrect. It's like the job of the browser is not to police me. So that's a big red flag for the browser, but it does have an interesting agentic mode built into it. And It's supposed to do simple tasks for you. So there's a patron toolbox tool I've been trying to build that will help you develop your brand based off of reviews of your books. But one of the challenges has been getting those reviews out of Amazon. So Amazon likes to only show a few of the reviews, and actually viewing all of the pages of the reviews is very tricky. And getting a bot to do that has proven to be an insurmountable challenge for me so far, which is why the Amazon review analyzer is not a tool in the toolbox yet. And so as an experiment, I did it manually. So I went to my book on Amazon, and I have similar number of reviews to Jonathan's first book. And I copy and pasted each review or each page of reviews into a Google Doc. And then in OpenAI's Atlas agentic browser, I just prompted it and told it to copy and paste the reviews into a Google Doc. So I had the Google Doc, had the page of reviews, and it couldn't do it. It kept trying. It pasted in a few, and but it kept checking in with me, being like, am I doing this right? Am I being prompt injected? Because one of the big issues with these is that if there's prompt injection text on the web page, it could hijack your browser and then access all of your life. So it's very risky to use an agentic browser. And so they realized that because the Perplexity Comet browser recently, some researchers showed how you could hijack it just with screenshots of an image. And so I was able to get it to copy and paste a few reviews, but then it just gave up altogether. And it's like, I can't do it. I'm sorry. So it'll get there eventually, maybe.
Yeah.
I don't recommend using this as your like full-time browser. It also couldn't access its own history. So one of the promises is like, let OpenAI track everything you're doing on the internet, and it will better inform your context so you can like do better research for your book. But it doesn't actually do that in a way that where it's accessible to you, and you have to trust that they're not like harvesting your data to make it accessible to them. And so a lot of you, I'm sure, are hearing me talk about this. And I'm like, well, obviously I'm not going to get Atlas by OpenAI or Comet by Perplexity. But here's the thing. All of the browsers are AI browsers now. So Chrome just added a Gemini button. So if you look right up here in the very top left corner of Chrome, there's now a Gemini icon that turns Chrome into an AI browser. Microsoft Edge has a Copilot button. Opera has an Area AI button. Firefox has an LLM agnostic AI button because Firefox is too poor to make their own AI. So you push the AI button and it's like, which AI do you want to use of our competitors? You select one of them. Poor Firefox. They're struggling, but they're not struggling quite as much as Safari, which has Apple Intelligence, which is Apple intelligence adjacent.
Yeah.
All of the AI, all of the browsers now have some kind of AI built into it. At least all of the really big ones. I don't know if Brave, PJ is talking about Brave in the chat. I don't know if Brave has an AI mode or not. So I'm sure if you are really trying to avoid,
just came out with one. So
yeah. If you're really trying to avoid AI mode, it's getting harder and harder. Like authors are like, I don't use AI. I'm a true human. It's like really hard to avoid. Everything on the computer is turning into AI this and AI that. So I am cautiously optimistic that it might be useful for certain tasks. But I will say the OpenAI browser really was launched kind of in a broken state. It's not ready to use. It's kind of like Sora. It's a cool idea, but it's really early days. Speaking of which, no one's used the Sora invite codes I'm giving out. So I'm going to give away another one. So to somebody who's watching the replay of this. So just as you're watching the replay, leave a comment saying, I want a code, and I'll have OpenAI pick a winner for next episode. So just post, I want a code in the chat. Is there anything else we should say about AI powered?
I watched
browsers?
the Yoast SEO update yesterday, and it came out a little too late for me to include it in this week's update, and we had plenty of stories anyway. I'll just save it for next time. But they talked about this agentic browsing, and that's really the term you need to get to know, agentic browsing. It's where you're not going to leave the AI window. You're not going to leave that page, which is alternating the way search functions. So clicks won't happen anymore because you're sending a bot to go do it for you. So let's say I'm searching because Shauna Lettler got on me about this because I said something about baking that one time because I bake. Okay, get off my back. I can destroy people and bake at the same time. Okay,
I'm a man.
I'll grind your bones to make my bread. I thought that was like freaking obvious. Anyway, what you'll do is if you're like searching for a particular kind of sourdough starter or a particular kind of, say, dough conditioner or something like that, you'll put it into your AI. Hey, what do you think is the best? Da, 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 da. And it'll be like, hey, do you want me to go pick that up for you? Yeah, sure. You hit yes. It already has access to your payment information, specifically if you already have a payment account set up onto that particular platform, and it'll just make the transaction for you and then ship it to you with your preset profile, which we already talked about. Profiles, you'll have your shipping address profile, your billing address under your profile, and you'll have the cards you're willing to use or the accounts or whatever it is, and your little agent will just go off and it's like having a designated shopper.
That's the feature they're most excited about, and I think that's the very last feature that actual humans are actually going to use, because giving an AI my credit card and saying go buy things for me is terrifying. Like, everyone thinks somebody else is going to use that feature. Nobody is like, I would like to use that feature. Like, in the chat, do you want to give AI your credit card and have it go shopping for you? Yes or no? Let us know.
We already send people to the drive-through for us, and we've done that for like 5 years.
But knowing that there's a human that you can yell at and like who has
there's so many
judgment.
stories of them like just taking the food or chucking the food because they didn't like the tip or whatever.
So somebody has that name for your next book. It's Semper Pi Marine Cookbook. That's actually a really good idea for a book you should write. The Semper Pi Marine Cookbook. 21 ways to make a marine food
sadness.
not awful.
Man, this crust is
You could sell dozens of copies, Jonathan. Dozens of copies. So speaking of things coming up, the Bestseller Secret Summit hosted by Derek Deppner is coming up next week. So this is October 27th through the 31st. It's free to attend. I'm speaking at it. Dave Chesson is speaking at it. Monique Daniel, Matt Stone, Sue Muller Hacking, Nick Eric, a lot of other top folks in publishing are speaking at this. Some of the topics, 2025 Facebook ads for authors, AI optimization for authors, which is what I'm talking about. There's a whole session on metadata, which I have not heard, but I'm going to assign it to you all as homework. There's one on DIY book publicity, email marketing, and one on how to relaunch an older book and turn it into a bookseller, and a whole bunch more. You can sign up for free. We have a link in the description below this video. If you want the recordings, that's how the whole conference is funded. So you can attend for free live, or you can pay for the recordings if you use our link and then go on to buy the recordings. It does help support the show. But you can just watch for free. The sessions are really good. This is like the 3rd or 4th year I've been a part of the summit. I really like it, and I really recommend it. Another thing I'm very excited to announce. People have been making fun of me about how excited I am to announce these things, but it's really cool. Somebody asked me to make a tool that helps them brainstorm blog post titles. And I thought I'd already made that, but it was one of our internal tools. And so I started making it. And while I was making it, I was realizing I could also have it write the meta description. Because once you've pasted it in your blog post, it can create a search optimized meta description. Then I was like, it could also create an AI optimization plan and a keyword plan to give you a whole SEO guide for that specific blog post. And so it's no longer the blog post titler, which is what I first was going to call it. It's now called the blog optimizer.
The blog-timizer.
The blog-timizer. At least it's not the bloptimizer. Could have been worse. The bloptimizer. So if you're a patron, you can already use this for free. It's one of the many tools in the patron toolbox. You just copy and paste your blog post, the rough version of your blog post, into the tool. You click optimize, and it will read the blog post, create a description for you. It generates like 36 different titles that are really good. And probably half of them are better than what you wrote. So it's better than what I can write. And anyway, you can use it for free if you're a patron. If you're not a patron, just go to patrontoolbox.com. You can become a patron for $10 a month. It gives you unlimited access to all of the Patron Toolbox tools. And with that, let's talk about the K-Lytics report from September 2025. Jonathan?
So several new reports have come out from K-Lytics in the past month. If you guys are not tracking K-Lytics, at least the reports in your genres, you need to be doing that, because this data is fantastic. I mean, I told you I'm Intel. I use databases all the time. this is the one I go to when I want to figure out what's happening on Amazon, because his data points are perfect. It shows trends, shows momentum, it shows it compared to last year. It shows ups and downs on a monthly basis and sometimes even on a weekly basis. And then it gives you visual data based on what covers are performing. Probably the only thing I would want it to do better is break down between traditionally published and indie. There's not as much of a delineation there, but that's because that's my specific data needs. That might not be the need of most of his customers.
And it looks just at Kindle numbers, we should say. So everything we're about to
Yes.
talk about is only Kindle. And what's really cool about Klytics is that it's the only place to get Kindle data, because BookScan actually doesn't have good Kindle data. So
Right.
a lot of the kind of industry reports that you see are ignoring almost all of the Kindle sales data. And Alex is one of the only people who has good access to this data. So we're going to go through it. If you want to sign up for your own Klytics report and go through these charts yourself, I really encourage it. There's a link down below. We are concerned we're giving away too much of this info on the episode. So Alex, if you don't like it, just send me an email, but we're going to summarize the report for everybody.
So, and when we're summarizing this, I'm just giving generalized output. Okay, this is not going to apply to every single book, and you need to optimize the position of your book based on the tactical data that you have. Okay, because every book is different, every author is different, every origin point to destination point, the path is going to be different. So get the report yourself and do your own analysis on what applies to you, because everyone has 100 questions on, well, what would I do with my? I don't know, man. I don't write your book. All right, so in the mystery, thriller, and suspense report, this was the one that kind of showed the biggest increase. Total titles hit 707,000, which is up 16% since last year. So
and it's the best-selling category now. So mystery, thriller, suspense is now past women's fiction. It's past romantasy to be the #1 overall category.
Currently. And that's
currently
very fluid. Okay. So there are hot sells, cozy mystery right now, books, bookstores, and libraries. That's something. It's just so small. It has 1,200 titles in it, which when you look at the millions of titles that are on Amazon, that's a very small number of titles in that category.
So what this means, it's got really high demand and really low supply. And so if you have a book in this category that is delivering on the promises of the category, so you can't just take your book and be like, well, the characters visit a library at one point. I'm going to put it there. It's slightly.
They have a blanket on. That's cozy.
Yeah, no. But if you read the books in this category and then write a book that fits in this category, you're not competing with very many other books. And it's a real opportunity to very quickly get a lot of sales without having to fight in a kind of red ocean category.
Right. So we're talking about entry points. We're talking about positioning. Okay. It's like trying to find the seam in armor. You can batter at the armor for a while, which is what authors feel like they're doing, trying to break the Amazon algorithm, or you can get into the seam and the joints. And having the right category is getting into the seam and the joints. The biggest gainers in mystery have been medical thrillers, up 54%. That's a huge jump, by the way. It's probably the COVID snapback, right? Because everything medical tanked towards the end of COVID, and no one wanted to hear about it again because we were sick to death of talking about it. And now it's climbing back up.
In these momentum shifts, this is year over year numbers, so it's less susceptible to like one author who has one hot book in 1 month. So medical thrillers are up 54% over the years. That's a huge jump.
Historical thrillers are trending up at 46%. Conspiracies are up 40%, which, I mean, Charlie Kirk just got shot, and we saw the jumps and all the conspiracy theories then. So
my money is on conspiracy fiction continuing to go up.
Yeah, because people are eating it up, and my X feed is destroyed right now. Legal thrillers have jumped up 37%. Action and adventure suspense is up 43%. This one's big. Children's mysteries and detectives have gone up 57%. And I've seen this because I'm in so many groups where parents are asking for mysteries that are appropriate for children. So if you write kids' books, take a look at Mysteries, Encyclopedia Brown, Nancy Drew, Hardy Boys, but good. You know,
my 7-year-old is so into mystery books right now. She had a Boxcar Children themed birthday party.
Wow, that's cool.
and like the cool toys, like we're looking for like detective kits for her, like really into solving puzzles, really into mysteries. So fact check true, based off of my limited interaction with the youth. I think that mysteries are very appealing. And then also historical fiction, mystery, thriller, suspense. This is a crossover genre, is also up 50%. So this, I know this isn't our Zeitgeist segment. We save that for the end, but this is Zeitgeisty in the sense that this is giving you a sense of what's up. And now let's talk about what's down. And don't shoot the messenger. Okay, you can send your angry emails to Alex at klytics.com.
This follows some trends that we've already talked about on here before. Remember, we talked about that publisher that does noir mystery fiction, and it folded. Organized crime is down 113%.
That is catastrophic.
Okay, so and that's mostly mafia romance. Mm-hmm. Okay, so these are romance numbers, but it's dropping the whole thing because people just don't want to look at it anymore. Either they think it's happening in the news already, so they're just not interested. You know, that everyone seems to think that the president is a gangster anyway. So people who would normally read this, they don't want to see it in their fiction anymore. So the sales are down.
Also, crime is really kind of coming home. Like a lot of people now have been victims of crime in the last year or two. Like crime rates are really high. A lot of police departments have stopped reporting their numbers to the FBI. So if you look at the FBI numbers, it's like, well, crime is down. It's like, yeah, because like 8 of the top 10 cities aren't reporting their numbers anymore.
Yeah.
And the fact that it's only down a little bit with those cities no longer giving numbers means that crime is really high right now. And like, I had a friend of mine who was murdered. Like these stories hit different once you're kind of in that ripple of crime ripples, right? And it's not fun anymore.
Yeah, that's really what it is.
And I don't enjoy it. You know, I see videos or photos on X of, you know, this Ukrainian girl who was murdered by just some guy sitting behind her in a metro or on a train. And it's like, I don't want that. That's not fun. I don't want to read a book that celebrates that. Especially where the criminal's the good guy. So like falling in love with the gang boss.
Well, I don't know. Elizabeth has brought up something here, which is interesting, which is that the Louvre robbery is actually really romantic and everyone's really enjoying it.
And the detective, Matt, is totally dressed for the job.
Yes. Yeah. So it's organized crime, all right, on like the lower level that actually impacts people. None of us care if the Louvre gets robbed. That doesn't impact you.
Right. So and this is actually really
it's just interesting.
Right, because mystery is doing very well. So we're not talking about mysteries overall. We're talking about specifically the organized crime subgenre, which is typically filled with romance kind of piggybacking in the genre where the female character is falling in love with the mafia boss. That's where the fatigue is. It's not on crime overall. In fact, I think part of the reason why mystery, thriller, suspense, this super genre is up is maybe because so many people are victims of crime or friends of victims of crime that they're wanting to read a story where the bad guy gets it in the end, right? Where Sherlock Holmes finds Moriarty, and at the end of the book, Moriarty is in jail. And that gives me a sense of peace. Mm-hmm. You know, I'm not experiencing that peace watching the news.
And other categories that are down would be occult, suspense, paranormal vampires, inspirational fiction.
Hold on. We just skimmed past these really fast. Occult suspense is down 53%. Paranormal vampires is down 44%. This is a huge drop in this kind of weirding thriller. Okay.
It doesn't really surprise me because people are kind of done with that level. That's like freak level. What people would perceive as freak level depth. I don't want to be there anymore.
I think we may be seeing, and I want to hear what y'all think in the chat. Are we seeing a dark fantasy fatigue? Because a lot of these genres that are way down are genres where dark romance fatigue. A lot of these genres are genres where dark romance would have some kind of dark romance category and a mystery, thriller, suspense category in like occult suspense or paranormal vampires. Almost every vampire story is really a romance story. Like there's not a lot of vampire stories that aren't also have some kind of romantic
Right.
thread to
So
them.
there's like a 3 to 6 month tail on data impact past the trend itself. And 3 to 6 months ago, women on X were like, remember the trad wife thing? I guess it's kind of died down. I haven't seen it a whole lot anymore. But women seem to be wanting good relationships. It wasn't anymore about getting the bad boy or getting the billionaire who's going to abuse me, but it's still exciting. 50 Shades of Grey type stuff. We went back to sweet. I want to cook for him. I want to stay home. I want to do all this stuff. And I think we're now seeing the data impact from that, as the fiction that's being consumed is also much less likely to involve bad boys and danger and forbidden romance kind of stuff. I think we're seeing the trend. I think the data is showing that trend right now. Now, who knows what will happen? Because when good times happen, women will get bored and they're going to want the bad boys again. They're going to want to go back into that. So if you do write that, just save your book and just release it, next time.
We have another, and if Alex doesn't get too angry at me at how much detail we're going on this Kalytics report, we have another report we may cover next week that's specifically on paranormal romance and kind of these romantasy genres, because there's a lot of nuance there. So we're kind of hitting it at an angle here with mystery, thriller, suspense. The inspirational fiction mystery is interesting because it's under the religion and spirituality category, and I didn't look this up in the chart. And I'm curious how this compares with the Christian version of that. So you have religion and spirituality, which is kind of the generic, like the supernatural world exists category. And then you have like the Christian versions where it's like religion and spirituality, then Christian, and then romantic fiction. That's not down as much, but romantic suspense is down 85%. That's actually the second biggest drop.
Yeah.
And I'm very curious. Are we seeing romantic suspense fatigue? This isn't a genre I read.
They don't want it to be dangerous. Yeah. They just want to see someone get into a relationship and it work. They don't want oh man, what's going to happen? Because we don't live in Jane Austen times. And Jane Austen times were good times, which is why the entire conflict of Pride and Prejudice is just on if they're going to get married or not. That's romantic suspense. We don't live in good times, or at least people are perceiving that we don't live in good times. And so they just want to see sweet, like high school sweetheart level relationships happening.
I mean, connecting this to, we may need to make the Kalytic stories just the Zeitgeist story, because the fourth turning always feels like bad times, right? It's when we're kind of most aware with the problems in the outside world and the least aware of the problems in our inner world. Mm-hmm. So people aren't concerned about hypocrisy in their own life the way they were 20 years ago, right? So in the second turning and in the third turning, people are really focused on like being fully integrated and fully consistent in their thinking and not having inconsistent thinking, and that their internal world and their emotions and their internal relationships are well ordered. In the fourth turning and first turning, it's about kind of fixing the external world. We got to have justice in society. We need to have rule of law. We need to defeat the Germans. We got to defeat the Japanese. We got to defeat the Confederates, right? Going back to the last fourth turning and the previous fourth turning.
And you'll hear this in a lot of keywords that characters will say, like, when we were fighting the war, everything was easy. Everything was simple. We knew what we were supposed to do and we just went and we did the mission. And now we're home and everything's complicated again. Well, now they have time to think about what's inside them. Their dark thoughts are coming up. We in the Marine Corps, we call it the release of pressure. You come back from deployment and suddenly everything is taken off, and the way you inflate again is, could be bad, because you might expand into areas that you shouldn't go. And so you can hear that kind of verbiage take place when people are dealing with external problems as opposed to internal problems, but you never really do both at the same time.
And mystery, thriller, suspense is a very externally focused genre. typically,
Yeah.
right? The solving the crime, stopping the bad guy. The conflict tends to be man versus man, not man against himself. There can be man against himself elements for sure, but
Yeah. So
the primary driving conflict is not man against society. It's not man against nature. Typically, right? You could write a suspense where there's a man stuck in a hurricane or whatever, but most suspense, most mysteries, most thrillers are man against man. It's an external conflict, and it's very much kind of the moment. This is not our Zeitgeist segment. So when we go do the real Zeitgeist segment, that's the final segment. This became a lot more Zeitgeisty than I meant it to be. But this is our first time to really cover K-Lytics.
But this is a K-Lytics report. I mean, content is what makes up how you determine how people are reacting to content that's already out. Should help determine what content you're going to create so that you can hit your audience where they're going to be. You can lead them a little bit, you know. So you need to be able to track where that trend is going. So it's not the Zeitgeist second.
Yeah. A couple other real quick things back to the report. The pricing sweet spot for the top 20 books in the various mystery, thriller, suspense categories is between $4 and $8. And the length, we're going to give you a couple highlights as why you should sign up for K-Lytics yourself. I got a link down below that's an affiliate link. Alex, please let us keep doing this because it's fun to summarize the reports. But the best-selling cluster is between 300 and 400 pages, which is actually longer than I was thinking. And it's a little bit shorter for cozies. So for cozy stories, it's between 244 and 402 pages, and it's longer for espionage and military, which is 400 to 500. But again, you can pull up the K-Lytics report for your specific genre, use our link to sign up, and that will actually help Alex let us continue doing this. Another big thing to announce. So my other tool that I created this week, I created 2 Patron Toolbox tools. The other one is to help audiobook creation, and it's a pronunciation guide. So it reads your book. It looks up the most common pronunciation for the least common words. So it finds all the weird words in your book, and then it creates a pronunciation guide that you can tweak. So if you have a fantasy story and you want the elf princess to have a particular pronunciation, this will give you a starting pronunciation. You can tweak it, and now you have a document that you can hand to your human audiobook narrator. I don't know if it'll work for AI audiobook narrators. I created it with human narrators in mind. My episode this week was about working with human audiobook narrators. I think that as more and more AI books are flooding the market, one of the ways that you can kind of demonstrate that this is a book written by a human is to have a human narrate it, because no AI books have human narrators. It's just not a thing that happens. AI books have AI narrators. Nobody's going to quickly throw together an AI book and then hire a human narrator.
Not going to doing that. No.
And so, like, we were talking last week about how do I get a verified human badge on my book? Is like, just get a human to narrate the audiobook. That's a really solid.
The market is going to figure that out. They're going to figure that out.
Speaking of AI,
so Sudowrite can now copy the voice that you write in. So my voice in draft is the new Sudowrite feature that allows you to create and write with a private AI model based on your existing work. They expanded their open beta test. Your My Voice models are now available in the draft tool as well, so you can use them to generate full chapter prose. If you use AI to help you draft, because for a lot of people, drafting is the worst part. So if they can just write like a short little prompt and have this thing spit out a bunch of raw material, and then they can get into the editing of that, which is what they really love to do. That's where their craft comes in. That's where their art comes in. Then Sudowrite can actually help you with a lot of that by imitating your voice. Again, it's not going to be you perfectly. This is not something you should take and publish. This is just a tool that helps you get past whatever the sticking point in your process is.
There's 2 kinds of authors. Authors who enjoy writing the first draft and hate editing, and authors who hate writing the first draft and enjoy editing.
Yeah.
There's also authors who hate both, and those are really miserable.
I hate the whole thing.
And then there's authors who enjoy both, but most people either enjoy one or the other more. So like Larry Correa is like, why would you ever work with an AI writing assistant? It's taking the fun part out. So he's famous for saying writing is fun, editing is work. And that is a very different perspective than, say, James L. Rubart, who does not, he's always grumpiest when he's writing his first draft, and he's always happiest when he's editing, because he's like, man, this is getting better and better. And like he gets very excited about the improvement over his rough draft into the second draft and third draft and so on. So I don't recommend Sudowrite necessarily, but I will say that of the AI writers, it's probably the best, and it's definitely the most powerful. It can connect with Anthropic. It can connect with Grok. I do have a affiliate link for it. So if you want to try it out for a month for free, just go to authormedia.com/Sudowrite. They set me up with a special thing. It should give you a month for free. We can just kick the tires, see if you like it. And then it's like write drunk, edit sober.
Yeah.
For some people, they have a hard time getting out of their own way, and they keep editing. Like they'll write a sentence and then edit it, and then write a sentence and edit it, and that first draft is just really slow. They can't turn off the editing mode, and so having AI kind of vomit pretty good writing that's matching your voice, and then you editing that, what you'll end up with is something that's still in your voice because you've edited it, but you've gotten past that first draft. But if you really enjoy doing the first draft, or if you're using our chapterizer tool to dictate, so you're out walking and creating a rough draft, just talking with your AirPods in, do that. That's really fun. Speaking of which, it's fixed. There was an outage. Well, it's not actually fixed. I didn't realize how many people are using the chapterizer as like a core part of their workflow until the chapterizer broke last night at like right after I got off work, and my inbox just like full of people being like, it won't fix my dictation. So what the chapterizer does, it takes your raw dictation and like adds the paragraph breaks, fixes dictation errors, adds the correct like punctuation around dialogue, basically turns raw dictation into a raw draft. It doesn't do any editing. It doesn't change any of your words, and it doesn't take out any parenthetical clauses you leave for yourself. So some authors will add like open parentheses, research this, close parentheses, like no homework for themselves in the future. It's specifically prompted to preserve all of that.
What color were his eyes?
Yeah. What was his name again? Like research this, right? So it preserves all of that, but it turns it into something that's doesn't hurt your eyes. It's not just a big long paragraph of text that's 5,000 words or whatever. I now have two versions. I have the chapterizer and the backup chapterizer. They use completely different large language models, and the hope is that neither of the large language models will both fail on the same day. So the backup is working. Hopefully we'll get the main chapterizer fixed. Some issue with Claude, we're looking into it, but the backup works great. I got good feedback from several of the people who emailed me, and I am sorry that it went down, but I am encouraged how many authors are using it as a core part of their workflow.
Okay, I got to address something. I have a problem. Oh, not that one. This one. I'm not against AI tools, but Sudowrite sounds like cheating. Okay, look, I fight for survival, and when you fight for survival, you cheat. You lie, you make them think you're in a different place, you make them think you're weaker than you are. I heard this so much because I was in a boot camp platoon. They put the ACOGs onto the rifles instead of making us use iron sights for qualification. And all these older generation Marines who were not combat troops said, oh, you guys didn't qualify with iron sights, you're not real Marines. And all the combat guys were like, no, you use sights. What is wrong with you? Use a telescope. What? That's not cheating. That makes it easier. You live longer. That's the way to do it. Guys, it's not cheating. This is hard enough. Okay? This is a really hard job.
Using a nail gun instead of a hammer doesn't make being a roofer, isn't cheating as a roofer. It just makes a tough job slightly less tough.
Right.
I will say it's not sudo with a P. It's sudo sudo, which is a Unix line command. So this is a little bit of an Easter egg inside of their name. So when you're typing in the terminal to a computer and you say, apt-get install blah 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 Chrome, it sometimes will give you back an error. And so if you say sudo apt-get install Chrome, it'll really do it. It's like, no, I really mean it. Do it for reals. It's like, this is an order private. And so it's sudo. That's what it means. But it also is kind of like writing. So it alludes to sudo as in it's sort of writing, but it's not real writing. It is an overly clever name. When I first found them, I'm like, that's very clever. Then I'm like, no author is going to know what sudo means.
Nope. Nope. It sounds bad.
All right.
I would have renamed it.
Now, that's the last of our hard news. Now it's time to talk about Zeitgeist. Although this Zeitgeist is also kind of hard news, but we have no stories after this. So we always close every episode with a Zeitgeist story talking about culture, kind of long-term trends. It's really easy with a news show to focus on breaking news and kind of lose the forest for the trees. So at the end of every episode, we zoom out, we look at the forest, we look at long-term trends. I realize we were already doing a little bit of that with the Kalytics episode, but there's a big long-term trend, probably the most important one for us as an industry, that is existential. And it is that Americans are spending less time reading every year than they spent time reading the year before. Jonathan?
Reading for fun, more specifically. So in the journal iScience that was published earlier this year, the research has painted a clear picture. Over the last 20 years, the share of Americans reading for pleasure has dropped 40%, which was 28% in 2004 and 16% in 2023. This is translating to an average annual decline of about 3%. They're drawing from the American Time Use Survey, which has captured daily activities from more than 236,000 people aged 15 and older between 2003 and 2023. Among those who read, the average time spent clocks at about 90 minutes a day of reading, suggesting dedicated readers are still passionate. But fewer people are picking up books, magazines, newspapers, and even e-readers and audiobooks for enjoyment. So you have to understand, magazines are gone. And that used to be a big adjacent cultural activity. You'd go to the dentist office, pick up a magazine. You would get your magazine in the mail. When I was a kid, I got Nintendo Power, and I loved it. Okay? These don't exist anymore because these industries have gone either strictly e-zine or just go out through their website.
Where did people read most magazines? Right? Let's be real honest here. Where were people when they were reading magazines? They were sitting on the toilet. What do people do while they're sitting on the toilet now? Is it hygienic? No. But it is a huge behavioral change, which is actually a good insight because magazines have taken it on the chin much more than books have, I will say. Magazines have dropped down very, very low.
Yeah.
Now, there has been a rise in blog reading and like Substack reading and some other kind of
a shift
long form,
because it's filling the same hole, which is industry specific content. Now, instead of being in a magazine, is going to be on a content creator Substack.
Yeah. So, but it hasn't dropped down to zero, but it has dropped down significantly. And if you look at this trend, this chart that we have starts in 1985, and it's basically flat with a little bit of a beginning drop when the personal computer came out in the early 90s. So you start to see the line of people reading going down, of people who read every day going down, and the people who hardly ever read going up. And these lines correlate almost exactly. So just one line is really all you need. So it's going down, going down, going down. And then there's this basically collapse in 2007, 2008. It's like
the phone.
What happened in 2007, 2008? It's the phones. It's the phones. Yep. It's the phones. It's the phones. And your competition as an author is the phone. And Matt Walsh had a very interesting argument on this, that the 2007 and the rise of the iPhone killed popular media. And you see basically that was the collapse of like movies was within the very best movies happened in that kind of window around 2007. And we haven't had really good movies since that window closed.
It's true.
And the music had happened even earlier, according to him, with the rise of Napster, but it also happened in TV shows, right? The very best TV shows were in the late 2000s, and starting 2010, 2009, TV shows weren't as good. And his argument is that there's no more pop culture because we're all now trapped in little algorithm bubbles. And the content that we're consuming is more and more algorithmically generated. And he didn't talk about this, but I was noticing this. I was over at somebody's house yesterday, and their YouTube was up on their TV, and all of the recommended YouTube videos were all AI generated. It was an AI script, and it was AI narration, and it was AI generated visuals. Yeah. And these people didn't necessarily notice or realize that this was AI because it looked, the AI voice sounded very real. If you don't spend a lot of time with AI, you don't know the kind of cadence that AI writing has, where it'll make a thesis statement and then have kind of a couple follow-up statements and another thesis statement, right?
Yeah.
It talks in a real kind of like essay for school kind of way. So if you're not familiar with it, and they were getting trapped in an AI slop bubble.
Yes.
And it made me sad for them. And this is why one of the ways to know that people are human, we're very good visually at telling human from not human. It's really hard for AI to get over the uncanny valley. And so you are relatively confident that Jonathan and I are human. You won't know for sure unless you come to the Novel Marketing Conference.
Quick, say something ChatGPT wouldn't let you say.
Oh yeah, or they say something politically incorrect.
So I noticed this with some YouTube chefs that I like to follow because I like to cook. And one guy was like, I went to Galaxy Quest or whatever it's called at Disneyland, the Star Wars place, and I ate everything there. And I'm like, okay, so what? I don't care. This isn't about a recipe, so I don't care. A week later, another guy did the same thing. And I'm like, you guys got fed the same information from an AI prompt because you both went to the Star Wars place in like within a month of each other. Now it takes time to produce those kinds of episodes because you have to film it, you have to edit it, and you have to do all that stuff. So they have different production processes. But it means they were fed relatively the same information within the same period of time, and they used AI to do it. And you know that because the videos on my stream are really similar. If one guy does quesadilla, 2 or 3 guys will be doing quesadilla within a week of each other.
It's convergent thinking. This is always a phenomenon in culture where you'll often get 2 very similar movies that will come out at the exact same time, and usually one will be a hit and the other one will be a flop. Like there was another
A Bug's
movie
Life, Ants.
perfect example, Gone with the Wind, and there was another one that was basically the same story that came out the same year, but it's now been mostly forgotten. You had Olympus Has Fallen and White House Down, which were movies about the president and a security guard and terrorists. Basically the same movie.
Same exact
so it's very so convergent thinking has always been a thing. I think calculus was invented in 2 different parts of the world in the same year by 2 different people. And it's becoming that way even more with the internet as our cultural influences are kind of getting compressed, but also as the same kind of people are in the same kind of algorithmic bubble with each other, because that's how machine learning works. And so you're not in a bubble alone. You're in a bubble with other people that the algorithm thinks are like you. And you're being fed the same kind of content.
From an Intel standpoint, okay, this is really bad. Because when you're in an echo chamber and all you hear back is, like, that's the way the algorithm works, right? You get locked into your algorithm and then the algorithm starts giving you what it thinks you want to hear or what you'll consume. And that's how YouTube operates, right? It wants to give you what you want to watch. So it's continually feeding you stuff like what you've already heard, which means now creators are now incentivized to create more of the same thing. So you're in an echo chamber. You were getting echoes of content that was made a while ago that you liked once. You know, I like this meme on Facebook where it's like, hey, you clicked on something that had frogs in it once. Here's some more pictures of frogs, you freak. You know?
I'm really looking forward to X letting you tweak your own algorithm just by talking to it. It'd be like, show me fewer frog posts.
But building your echo chamber, the problem with that with AI now is AI is going to reiterate and regenerate based on the echo chamber. So you're going to have inbreeding. So when you have communities that are too isolated and too locked into each other, you're going to get data inbreeding, and you're going to get some monsters out of that. You're going to get some really weird inhuman stuff coming from that as AI breaks, because if AI reiterates the monsters, you're going to have a huge problem. Now your AI model is broken and you have to purge its database.
So Scott has a really great question. He's like, how do we break out? And actually reading books is a really good way to break out, because books, especially books that you find kind of in an organic way interacting with humans.
Bookstores, because an algorithm does not affect, to a large extent, your browsing in a book. And I would try to go indie if you can. Find someone who's weird and passionate about this.
Indie bookstores
and go through the shelves.
So woke, though. I have never been to an indie bookstore that I felt catered to my interests in.
Thrift store. Go to a thrift store and browse the books there, or libraries who are offloading parts of their collection.
Libraries sell the very best
depending on the
books.
library. Yeah.
They keep the stuff I don't like and they sell the stuff I don't like. So you go to the library sale and it's like gold. That's actually not a bad way to do it. But even just like it, like a recommendation from a friend or a recommendation from a podcast, somebody you know who's human, where that's not algorithmically generated, is a really good way to escape this. And one glimmer of light on this, because I realize this, like, people are reading way less is kind of depressing. One thing that's not being captured in this study is audiobook consumption. So we talked about last week, audiobooks are now bigger than ebooks amongst the traditionally published books. And audiobook consumption is through the roof. And somebody who is shifting from reading, let's say 90 minutes a day, which was the highest level in this chart, to listening to 90 minutes of audiobooks every day, is being captured in this chart as somebody who is no longer reading, which I think is a very historically illiterate opinion of reading. Because reading historically was always listening. Reading silently is actually a relatively new invention. Nobody knew how to do it.
You have to learn how to do it. It has to be taught to you in school. But everyone knows how to listen to a story. All storytelling was narrative in the beginning.
And from a writing books perspective, and from a business perspective, and from a content perspective, somebody listening to an audiobook is still getting that non-algorithmically generated experience over an extended period of time. It's the exact same content that they're reading in the book. Sure, it might be performed a little bit. Maybe the narrator is adding some acting to it, but it's a core similar experience. And so I wish that this study had somehow was able to capture the phone, the audiobooks, because this is one kind of the phone taketh, but the phone giveth. And the phones took away some reading of magazines. It took away some reading of paper books, and it took away reading of ebooks because the ebook experience on the phone is not good. A lot of people think they have the Kindle experience trying to read on the Kindle app on their phone, and it's awful. Just buy a real Kindle. It's much, much better. But the audiobook experience is better than it's ever been. Audiobooks with cassette tapes was awful. Audiobooks with CDs was even worse.
Even worse.
So bad with CDs. Like until you got the Bible on CD, and it was like 50 CDs, and it cost you like $100, and it was just awful. And now it's a much better experience. And so that's, I think, one encouraging thing. And it's another reason why it's so important for your book to exist on audio, narrated by a human, preferably. Listen to this week's episode of Novel Marketing for a guide on how to do that. It's way cheaper than you think. It's way easier than you think. We walk you through it step by step in our free episode. So when this is over, just go to the same channel you're watching right now on YouTube and watch my episode on audiobook narration.
So the fundamentals haven't changed, and they haven't changed since the beginning of time. Storytelling. A good storyteller is a gift. When we did the episode when Thomas was sick, and I was stuck trying to figure out what to think of to do for the Zeitgeist, and I did the 13th Warrior. I got so many emails and comments and messages from people like, I'm going to go check out the 13th Warrior. Why? I told the story well. I love the story. I got it out clearly, I think. And it made people who would never have even touched this want to go look at it. Okay, that's an organic discovery method. That is hone your gift. Get good at storytelling. And when you get good at storytelling, people will want to read your stories, even people that weren't reading before. I've had people tell me this about Shades of Black. They weren't readers. They really enjoyed the pacing of it. They enjoyed the story itself. They liked how it was told, and it made them want to read more. These were people who didn't normally read. And why? Because we're getting a lot of this generated slop. We're getting the algorithmic stuff where people are writing to market. And writing to market is this algorithmic crap. And so the storytelling is being lost in favor of generating another book for people to read. And the fundamentals are storytelling. Be a good storyteller. You want to learn how to be a good storyteller? Tell stories to your kids. Tell stories to someone else's kids. Go to the freaking assisted living home where those people have nothing to do all day long and practice, because they will just appreciate you being there and trying.
Telling stories to a live audience gets you better faster because you get immediate feedback.
Yes.
I will say audiobooks is not the whole story, and the phone is not the whole story. There's another big elephant in the room, and that is the American education system. So you can see in the chart where we started to abandon phonics as a way of teaching children how to read. I saw some chart recently that something like 20 or 30% of Americans are functionally illiterate. And I'm actually seeing this now that I understand what functionally illiterate means. Functionally illiterate doesn't mean you can't order from a menu, right? A lot of people can read that well, or read well enough to operate a phone, right? They know what TikTok is and how to find the TikTok app. What we mean by functionally illiterate is that they can read a page of instructions and then follow those instructions. And I'm finding this when I build tools for authors, so that some authors are functionally illiterate. The instructions are right there. It's like, just read the instructions and follow the instructions. But some people can't. Like the words are on the page and they just can't make sense of the words and take action. And it's not their fault necessarily. It's maybe because they were just taught to read in a really poor way.
Yeah.
And this is one area where there's been some encouraging changes. So Mississippi, which had some of the worst education numbers in the country historically for years, they've always had the worst. They switched to a phonics only education model for teaching reading, and they went from one of the worst states to one of the best states almost overnight. And it was such a radical change that California, which shares basically nothing in common with Mississippi politically, California's like, we're going to switch to phonics too. And this is something I think we can all get around. I know there's a lot of political difference, and the Zeitgeist segment tends to be very political, but I would like to make the case that whether you're blue team or red team, we can all be on team phonics, because English is a phonetic language, and teaching children to read English like they're learning to read Mandarin is not the way to teach English. I realize this may be controversial in some quarters, but like, it's a phonetic language. Learn to read phonetically. And the other thing about learning to read phonetically is that it helps you have more lyricism to your writing. It makes you a better writer because you kind of hear the words and there's a kind of a poetic flow to it. And if you didn't learn to read phonetically, you can't hear that flow the same way. There's a really great video on this on, I think it's called the Second Story YouTube channel. I've been sharing a lot of her YouTube videos recently. I want to get her on the podcast actually. And she talks about kind of one of the reasons why writing has gotten worse in recent years is because reading has gotten worse, and specifically the way people are taught to read has gotten worse. And we have to
what they're given to read.
Yes. And we need to get rid of the Department of Education, if for no other reason than to allow the states to try different stuff so that they can figure out what works.
Yeah.
Like, put the 50 states in a Thunderdome to see who can do it the best, and then let them steal the good ideas from each other. Don't have some bureaucrat in some building in Washington, D.C. say, I know how to do it best. No,
you're polluting the data by narrowing it down to a single point. It's just the control group. You don't have any diversity of results to pick and choose and see what's the most successful iteration of this particular kind of system.
And it was very difficult for Mississippi to break with the Common Core to do this innovative experiment with phonics. But now California is like, oh, we're going to do phonics too. And we should be doing this on every subject in all of education. Competition is good. Let the states compete, and then let them, steal ideas from each other. Right. So don't have any secrets of like, we're not going to tell you how we're educating our children, but how would you even keep that a secret? Right. That, you just hire a teacher from Wyoming and be like, how are you all so good in Wyoming? It's like, oh, well, we do it this way. Like, oh, that's really good. We're going to try that. Competition, less regulation, less bureaucracy. Let the states compete. Let the children learn.
But I think it's less on how you learn to read than it is on what you're learning to read. Because when you want to read something, you figure it out, right? What most kids are given to read, I hated everything I had to read in school. I hated all of it. There's a great Calvin and Hobbes comic on this, where his mom is like, why aren't you doing your homework, or why aren't you enjoying your stuff? When you get home, you read everything about dinosaurs, and you tell me everything about dinosaurs. You know everything about it. You know how to learn. And he looks at her and he goes, we don't read about dinosaurs in school. Like, they're not interested in The Great Gatsby. They're not.
It's a terrible book.
The
only reason people think it's a good book is because they haven't read actually fun to read books.
Getting force-fed this American lit crap, where the only way these guys are like Hemingway. Okay, if you like Hemingway, great. I'm glad you like Hemingway. Most people don't. Matter of fact, the only reason Hemingway is getting read anymore is because they make people do it. It's
Or Margaret
required to
Atwood.
pass.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's like
Margaret Atwood or
it-
Ayn Rand.
these books are being assigned because of the political messaging, because the purpose of the English class is not to create a love of reading, but to create a political ideology.
Yes.
And that seems like a good idea, right? Because we want to have more political party for our political power for our side. And so we wanted these young, impressionable minds to agree with us. But ultimately, the nations that win are the nations that have well-educated citizens. And a key to good education is learning to read well and to enjoy reading, because reading requires practice. And it's a practice that must be maintained. Because one of the interesting things is that older people read less. So the trends, if you look at reading rates, while younger people read less than they used to, younger people are still reading more than older people. Like baby boomers have some of the lowest rates of reading of all the generational cohorts. And that's not something I fully understand, but it may be they're not publishing the kind of books we want to read kind of situation. Because the people making decisions on what books get published gets narrower and narrower. And all the indie bookstores are all the same. They're all featuring the same books for the most part, and all the diversity is all on Amazon. So if somebody hasn't kind of self-identified as a reader and hasn't gone to the effort to go to Amazon, or really to find somebody to tell you, oh, of the 10 million books on Amazon, here's the book I think you'll enjoy, because there's a lot of books that people will. So here's something that will happen. Somebody who's not a reader will have a friend that writes a book, and they'll buy that book because they're their friend, and then they'll read the book, and then they don't enjoy reading it because that friend of theirs wrote the book for themselves rather than for their reader. So this is why it's really important for you to not publish your first book. It's not just for you, for your own book sales. It's for America. It's like, make America read again. Write books that your readers want to read. Write books for your readers, not write books for yourself. And if you write the kind of book that somebody enjoys so much that their identity changes and they're like, gosh, I really enjoyed reading that book. I want to read more books.
Yeah.
I want to read more books in this genre. If you start writing books that are that good, it changes everything. It changes everything. And you will make a lot of money. And this is actually James Patterson's vision. So a lot of people in the publishing industry don't care for James Patterson. He doesn't win a lot of awards, but this is very much his worldview. He wants to write books for people who don't like to read books. And he wants to write books that turn people into readers. And so he writes books. His whole approach is making the book fun to read. Now, it's not fun to read for everyone, right? We need lots of James Pattersons and lots of genres. But I will say, going back to our K-Lytics report, what genres does James Patterson write in? Mystery, thriller, suspense. What's number one right now? Mystery, thriller, suspense.
You have to understand that people are already doing the things that reading does for you. Your brain is designed for this. You can look at words and then you'll hallucinate something. Your brain will dream the world in your mind, and that's why people enjoy reading who read. Okay, but people, we say reading, it's not that people don't want that anymore, but they're going to other places to get it. Sometimes it's force fed to them through YouTube. Everything is just presented to them. Netflix, Hulu, all the streaming services. You're getting really subpar stories because your input determines your output, right? If you've been reading crap for 20 years, guess what? You're not going to put out anything of any worth. It's just not going to be good. It doesn't even feel good anymore. I watched the original Jumanji last night from the 90s with my kids, and it was like Power Ranger level props of the monsters, the plant monster coming out to get, and my kids were petrified because it's good storytelling. It was really good storytelling. And so the input determines the output, okay? What you are consuming is going to determine what you can put. It's nutrition. It's the same exact thing, okay? Now, you also had to take into account that you have all these writers who have been taking in this input for a while and were trained this way, and then they were told, well, everything you do is art, and so it can't be wrong. Art can't be wrong. Okay. Yeah. As a martial artist, I can tell you art absolutely can be wrong. And it really hurts when it's not good.
Beauty is a real thing and ugly is a real thing. And it is possible to look at a painting and say that painting is ugly. Also, being out of time is a real thing. the show's not over, but it is moving. So the patrons only Q&A starts in 5 minutes. So I got to jump off of here and warm that up. So if you're a patron, one of the perks of being a patron is you get access to the monthly patrons only Q&A. And all I do is answer questions. You can come on screen and ask me questions about your books. If you've ever wanted to pick my brain of Human Thomas, you can always pick AI Thomas's brain if you're a patron. But if you want to pick Human Thomas's brain, go to Patreon. If you want to sign up to come to that, there's a link down in the description down below. You can become a patron. You can watch the replays of the patrons only Q&A. So I've got to go. Jonathan, do you have any final thoughts though before we leave?
I do. If you want that Sora 2 code, make sure you put it in the comments under the replay, not in the live chat comments.
All right. We will see you next week with potentially more K-Lytics report information. We'll probably put it later on in the episode since it tends to turn into a zeitgeist conversation. I'm Thomas Umstattd Jr.
And I'm Jonathan Sugar Jr.
Live long and prosper.